Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Turn it around?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
So the verse is a different one. And I thought it was 27:28.
Sorry, it's our mistake.
Anyway, I'll do my best.
What you could do is you could do both. And
I'll see how it goes.
yeah, so that you can speak about what you do.
So this is 19, that's way back, yeah.
This is 26.
This is actually 26, but I'll read from 19, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then we'll chant 26 and then purport.
Okay.
It must be like that because there's no purport, yeah?
Okay.
Is it? Let's see. Yeah, there's no purports.
There is
Yes, for 26. For 26 there is a purport.
the problem it was because yesterday he didn't give class on Bhagavati because it was a special day.
26, there is purport.
There is a purport.
Yeah, yes, but I'm saying that the reason it says 19 too is because at 19 there's no purport until 26.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Anyway, at number 20 there's a purport.
So which one you want to read?
So I'm going to read from verse 20. I'm just going to read the English, if that's okay. So somebody's translating.
Is the chapter, not the verse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, excuse me. Thank you for telling me that. Okay. Shrutva-gatam devayani.
Bhagavatam Devayani.
Many prastobhamatmana. Stripumsa sneha vaiklavyat. Parihasam iveritam. Shruvagatam devayani. Many prastobhamatmana. Stripumso sneha vaiklavyat. Parihasam iveritam. Shruvagatam devayani. Many prastobhamatmana. Stripumso sneha vaiklavyat. Parihasam iveritam.
Shruta Gatam Devayani. Mene Pratubhamatmana. Stripumso Sneya Vaiklavyat.
Stripumso sneha vaiklavyat.
Parihasam Iveritam.
Parihasam iveritam.
Shrutva-gatam devayani.
Shruvagatam devayani.
Mene prastobhamatmanaha.
Mene prastobhamatmana.
Stripumso sneha vaiklavyat.
Vaiklavyat.
Parihasam niveritam.
Parihasam iveritam.
Bhagavatam devayani.
Bhagavatam devayani.
Mene prastobhamatmanaha.
Mene prastobhamatmana.
Stripumso sneha vaiklavyat.
Vaiklavyat.
Parihasam iveritam.
Parihasam iveritam.
Shrutva-gatam devayani.
Shruvagatam devayani.
Mene prastobham atmanaha.
Mene prastobhamatmana. Parihasam niveditam.
Ladies?
Shuttvagatam devayani.
Shuttvagatam devayani.
Mene prashtobam atmanaha.
Mene prastobam atmana.
Pumso sneha vaiklavya.
Yopumso sneha vaiklavya.
Parihamsi iverikam.
Parihasam niveditam.
Shuttvagatam devayani.
Shuttvagatam devayani.
Mene prastobam atmanaha.
Mene prastobam atmana.
Pumsam sneha vaiklavya.
Vipumsam sneha vaiklavya.
Parihasam niveditam.
Parihasam niveditam. Shrutva, hearing. Gatam, the narration. Devayani, Queen Devayani, the wife of Maharaj Yayati. Mene, understood. Prastobam, Atmana, when instructed for her self-realization. Stri Pumso, between the husband and wife. Sneha Vaiklavyat, from an exchange of love and affection. Parihasam, a funny joke or story. Eva, like. Iritam, spoken by Maharaj Yayati. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When Devayani heard Maharaj Yayati's story of the he-goat and the she-goat, she understood that this story, which was presented as if a funny joke for entertainment between husband and wife, was intended to awaken her to her constitutional position. The Prabhupada's purport: when one actually awakens from material life, one understands his real position as an eternal servant of Krishna. This is called liberation. Muktir hivanyata rupam swarupena vivastita. Sorry. Under the influence of Maya, everyone living in this material world, that he thinks that he is the master of everything. Ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate, which is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 27. One thinks that there is no God or controller, and that one is independent and can do anything. This is the material condition. And when one awakens from this ignorance, he is called liberated. Maharaj Yayati had delivered Devayani from the well. And finally, as a dutiful husband, he instructed her with a story about the he-goat and the she-goat, and thus delivered her from the misconception of material happiness. Devayani was quite competent to understand her liberated husband, and therefore she decided to follow him as his faithful wife. Mangina Tamarandasya Gina Gina Shalakaya Chakshurinamalina Mukam Karochi Vachanam Pangam Langate Shigurundinatana Namo Shradai Krishmastai Budale Samadhi Bhakti Vikas Swamini Namani Namaste Namo Shradai Krishmastai Budale Samadhi Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nidasesha Sanivadi Pashyata Deshtarane Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Pipasavabhya Vichapatita Nambhavane Vyo Vaishnavya. So the story is that Devayani was rescued from a well princess, and she'd fallen down in the daughter of a Brahmana, and she'd fallen down into a well. You know, where people, they drill a hole in the ground and they put the bucket down to get water. It was standard procedure before people had piped water, that you would get water from a river or from a well. It's your fresh water supply. And actually here there's a well on the property. Underneath the guest house. You come out the guest house, and immediately on the right there's a big building. That's the well. Because so she'd fallen in the well. Actually, she had a fight with one of her friends, and her friend had pushed her in the well. So she was stuck down the well. So he came and rescued her. And he was very handsome, and she was very attractive, so they decided to get married. And then they enjoyed for many years. And the reason the connection with the goats is that Maharaja Ayati was comparing himself to a male goat and his wife to a female goat, because they were enjoying gross sense gratification. They had a sexual relationship for many years, which is normal enough for married people. But the idea is that you can enjoy for a number of years in what's called grihastha life, or grihamedi life, is when you're just enjoying within religious principles, but you're enjoying. But grihastha life is when you're married, but the goal is to become spiritually realized. It's not just that we're here to enjoy as much as possible, but the idea is that we have an attachment to material enjoyment. But we want to progress beyond that, above that, to a higher level of consciousness. So we make a partnership and we stay together as a couple, and we work through our material desires, and we become spiritually advanced under the instructions of spiritual master who will guide the grihastha couple. So Maharaj Ayati, he admits that this enjoyment was like goat life. It's not really any different, Enjoyment between man and woman, and enjoyment between two goats, or enjoyment between other animals. It's not any different flavor of enjoyment. It's just, it's the same thing. So when people get involved in this, it's described as chewing the chewed. Mashe sakon deja mashe. It was nothing new. In every species, there's this enjoyment is there. So for human beings, it's not really the highest activity they can engage in. Even though people are very attached and it's advertised as such a great thing, but it's not. It's really only animalistic behavior. People eat, they mate, they sleep and defend, but so do the animals. Animals are also doing, but there's something that human beings can do that animals cannot do, and that is practice spiritual life. Some people may say, well, animals actually are very spiritual, they look very meditative sometimes, but they can't pick up a bead bag and chant Hare Krishna. I mean, maybe you could train a chimp, or a parrot. You can train a parrot to say Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But the human form of life is ideal. It's special. It's specially designed for spiritual life. Every species of life has different propensities. Like a frog can jump very high, or a horse can run very fast, or a donkey can carry very heavy loads, etc., etc. The human form of life is specifically for spiritual advancement. That is the purpose of the human body. So then Maharaj Yati is doing his duty as a husband, because a husband and wife, they have duties towards each other and towards society. So he's instructing his wife through this story. So sometimes we use a story to tell to make a philosophical point, because it makes it, somehow or another, it makes it easier to digest. It's like if you have to take some medicine, but you put like sugar on the outside of the pill. You can take the pill, you can take the medicine. So if we have a story about these two goats who were enjoying, and then the goat lost his testicles and he became impotent, and then somehow or another he managed to get his testicles reattached and he was able to continue enjoying. It's a humorous story. And these things are actually possible. But the point is that Maharaj Yayati now has got a higher perspective on life, and he's telling his wife. And it said his wife was competent to understand, because I said she was actually the daughter of a brahmana. She's the daughter of a very prominent brahmana called Sukracharya. And so many things happened. But now here they are, towards the end of their life. And so she has now realized what's called her constitutional position, which means that you understand that you are a spiritual being. You know, the body is an external dress. It says in the Bhagavad Gita that the soul changes its body like you would change your clothes. If your clothes become very old, you don't just continue wearing them, you throw them away, and then you get some new clothes. Isn't it? That's what we do. Or maybe we go to the Croix Rouge and buy something second-hand because we don't want to, waste too many resources. But anyway, we get something different to wear if our clothes become too old. So it's like that with the body. The body gets too old. You have to have it replaced. So that means that we're not the body, yeah? We are the consciousness that lives inside the body. So this is the message, the very basic beginner's message for spiritual life. Yeah. To understand that I am a conscious being, I am a soul. My duty is to develop this consciousness and to get out of what's called the bodily concept of life, where Prabhupada says here, one thinks there is no God or controller, and that one is independent and can do anything. Because when you're young and you have some good karma, you think, well, I'm just enjoying life. Everything's very nice. I can do this, I can do that, I can go here, I can go there. What's the problem? I don't need God, I don't need religion, I don't need to follow these old-fashioned rules. Don't need to do what my parents say, I'm just having a good time. And if we want something spiritual, generally we have, we take a little bit from here and a little bit from there, and a bit of meditation and maybe some yoga and some, sort of meditate watching the sunrise coming up, and I'm moving the sun, it's a very nice idea. Yes, everything's happening because of me, I am the same. You have all sorts of crazy things going on, but you have a bit, like a kitri, you have a kitri of all these different ideas. And then you practice what you call a think is spiritual life. But actually spiritual life is a very particular thing. It's a very, very particular endeavor. You have to find somebody who's actually on the spiritual platform. When somebody wants to guide somebody else, they have to be qualified to do that. So if you want, medical advice, you don't just go to anybody, you go to a qualified doctor. Or if you want engineering advice, you want to build a bridge. The government they don't just get anybody. Oh, that looks nice, that picture looks nice, we'll build that bridge. This is the first bus that goes over, the whole thing. So you have to have somebody who's really qualified, that has a history of building proper bridges. So it's like that when we go for spiritual life. We have to find somebody who's qualified to instruct us about spiritual realization, about self-realization, about God, about how to achieve, what our goal. The goal is Krishna prema, love of God. Yeah. So who is that person who can guide us? There's somebody who's already himself at that level. He's already got that level of realization. He's already on the spiritual platform. So what if we can't find somebody who's on the spiritual platform? And anyway, how do we know? Somebody may bluff. Somebody might be a fake. How do we know? Well, we have to check it out. We have to be careful who we listen to. We have to see what that person's life is like, what their habits are like, what they do with their time, who their associates are, what their followers are like. You can see somebody is a powerful person by looking at their followers. You think, well, if I'm going to follow him or her, I'm going to end up like his followers. If his followers look a bit doubtful, you don't want to, If there's a particular doctor, everybody goes to him, becomes more sick. You don't go to that doctor. So you have to go to somebody who's spiritually realized and qualified to. And these people are rare, but they do exist. And Srila Prabhupada we worship Srila Prabhupada because he's pure, because he's giving the pure teachings of spiritual liberations, the spiritual world, how to exit this material world and go back to Godhead. Well, he used the expression "back to Godhead," which means we belong in the spiritual world. You don't go back somewhere unless you've been there before. So we've left the spiritual world to come here. So this is what it means when we start to understand our constitutional position. We start to understand we should start our serious endeavor to become self-realized, to become fully reinstated in our relationship with Krishna. So the absolute truth is a person. It's a person. Some people think the absolute truth is impersonal, that it's the sum total of everything, or it's some universal consciousness, or some vibration. You chant Om. But Om is a representation of the Supreme, but it's not accessible to us because we're not pure to chant it properly. And also it's the impersonal manifestation, representation of the Supreme. So we have a process that's suitable for us. For somebody who seriously wants to take the spiritual life, there's a program to follow. By following Srila Prabhupada's program, people become advanced. So you can see the sincere followers of Srila Prabhupada, and you can see what are they like. Many of them become very, very serious devotees. They've become qualified themselves to take disciples. They've become able to write books and to translate scriptures and to give learned classes on scripture. So Prabhupada's potency it's one of the manifestations of Srila Prabhupada's potencies, is he's able to deliver other people, to liberate people. Because if you follow the instructions, to give a mundane example, if you followed the instructions of somebody who is a computer expert, but you don't know anything about fixing computers, but you follow the instructions step by step by step. He's sitting next to you and he gives you the instructions how to fix a computer. You open this and you turn this and you remove this and you replace this and you follow the steps, and then you will be able to fix the computer just by following his instructions. Yeah? Make sense? So this is the way we practice spiritual life. We follow the instructions of somebody who's spiritually realized, and he says, okay, you do this, and then you do this, and you don't do that. So that's why I'm saying it's a fine-tuned process, spiritual life. We have to actually follow the instructions properly, because if we start following our mental mental concoctions, our some made-up ideas, some imaginations, then we're not going to get the proper result. If you think of the analogy of fixing the computer. Well, this bit here, it doesn't look like a very nice color. I think I'll put something a different color in this bit of the computer. It would look nicer. Well, the computer's not going to work. So it's like that with spiritual life. If we start adding things and taking things away. So you have to actually follow the process. It's not that the process is undoable or is too challenging. Well, Prabhupada's given a process that is appropriate, an appropriate process for us to follow. But we have to follow it. We have not to subtract or add. Yeah? Because if we start adding things or taking things away, then it's no longer, like another example is a recipe for a cake. You think, oh, this is not healthy, this cake has got too much butter and too much sugar. And the white flour. So we'll get rid of half of the butter, half of the sugar and half of the white flour. We'll put in some, I know rye flour is very healthy, we'll put in some rye flour and some margarine and maybe some of this, what do they call that, stevia, yeah? We put it, and it won't be nice cake at all, yeah? It might be some kind of sludgy kind of, it won't rise because the rye flour will stop it rising. But anyway, it's just an example that if you start changing the process of spiritual life, we will not get the proper result. We maybe get some result, but not the desired result. Or maybe we'll just slow down our process. We'll slow down our... If you want to make very quick advancement, very rapid advancement. Somebody asked Prabhupada once, how long did it take, Prabhupada? Well, it can be done in a second. You can surrender in a second. You can surrender just like that. But Prabhupada, how long would it take us? How long? What's the minimum time it could be done? We could become, from being really conditioned soul in the modes of, ignorance and passion. He said, 15 years. 15, 1-5. If you, go for it. Go for it. Getting up at 2 a.m., chanting your rounds, like this. So anyway, I wanted to read, I planned the class a little bit differently because I thought I was speaking in a different verse. But this idea of the husband and the wife, I could say a little bit more about that. So the relationship between a husband and a wife is part of spiritual life for most people. There are people who are advanced enough to just transcend the desires for association of the opposite sex, but most people get married. Most people are attracted to having a house and family like that. And it's not against the interests of a spiritual practitioner to do that. So then there are duties for the man and there are duties for the woman, and the traditional roles. There are traditional roles. The man is supposed to act like a man, and woman like a woman. So the woman has children and the man provides for the children. He protects his wife. And part of the protection is giving her spiritual guidance. So then it means he has to practice spiritual life properly. In order to do his duty of spiritually taking care of his wife, he has to become spiritually serious. So any questions on that? Anything I said so far? Bruno.
So you talk about wife and woman, and just now it came to me one realization that we all often hear that we have to take care of this body in the manner that he can serve, in the manner that he is efficient for this spiritual life. And the same matter is between wife and woman. We often hear that it's not so fashionable to be a wife in the house and to be a man like the one who provides for the family. But in fact, if we are not so much into some material execution for what do the wife, what do the man, and we're just following, as you say, we can focus on our spiritual practice and okay, I'm a wife, I give birth, I take care of the child, my man do this and that to provide. Okay, that is ruling, our house is not falling apart, that's it. Now take care of our spiritual propensity and advance in some way to the process of Prabhupada.
Yeah, well, you said it very succinctly. That's what we should do. We should see being married is not the goal of life. Yeah, it's part of life. It's something that we go through, and we come out the other end. Like, you know, Yayati and Devayani, they've done their grihasta duties, and now they're coming to the point where they want to go into the next phase of life. So after grihasta life comes Vanapras life, where you retire. Children are grown up, you know. You can leave the business, you have a little money saved, and you can travel to the holy places. Or you can move back into the temple, which is what I did. Temple is also like a holy place. Huh? And then eventually, the man is supposed to take sannyas, supposed to become completely renounced, leave his wife. She can go back and stay somewhere near the family, but so she has some protection, but not completely in the family life again. So she goes back and lives nearby and practices her bhajan, we say, which is her sadhana, her chanting and reading. She concentrates on the spiritual development. And then the husband travels and preaches, so he goes from village to village, town to town, country to country, preaching. That's the ideal. But not everybody's capable of fully renouncing. So men will stay with their wife and they will travel and go to holy places and preach together. Most people are, the idea of sannyas. Even Srila Prabhupada, he had dreams where Bhaktisiddhanta came to him and told him, you should take sannyas. And Prabhupada said, no, not ready, not yet, no. And he thought the idea, this is his Leela, of course, but he was saying that he didn't feel ready to take sannyas. He thought the idea of full renunciation was not attractive to him. But of course then he did it. He did it. And look at the glorious results. I mean, if Prabhupada had stayed in family life, drinking tea with his wife or whatever, she would have, liked. She was a tea drinker. But he wouldn't have come to the West and preached and saved all of us and distributed millions and millions of books to educate the whole world about this illusion, this illusion of material life. So that's the point. When you get to the end of life, it's you realize that it's all like a dream. The material life that you've had is like a dream. It's all gone now. I had a house and a husband and a child and baby, and everything was very busily going on. We had all these meals to prepare and the children to take care of, and the husband was doing this and that and all the laundry and money in the bank, and it was all very complicated. You had to get the car and this and that. It was very, very real. It was all very important and urgent, and absorbing your senses and your mind, all your energy at that time. I was chanting, of course. I was always chanting, getting up very early and chanting before all that started every day. But now you look back and what happened? It's all gone. So it's like a dream. It's like a dream. The dream is something that, it seems very real while it's happening, while you're in the dream. If you're dreaming that a tiger is eating you, it's very real, very fearful. But you wake up, it's just a dream. So the material life is something we have to wake up. So that's what is happening here. Is Maharaj Yayati is telling his wife, time to wake up. You're not really, Princess Devayani, Queen Devayani, and I'm not really Maharaj Yayati, because this is a temporary dream. We've been having a nice dream together. Yeah, it's like a shared dream, because say material life is a shared dream. But it's a dream because it's finished. You're just left with his old body. Hello, body's on, look at this. Nobody wants to marry me now. Oh dear. Sometimes I might have a conversation with a younger man, you can see they start to get nervous. And she's very old, not very attractive, I need to go away, you know. Oh yeah, maybe I can talk with her, she's very attractive. Or vice versa, you know, with the ladies and the men. So one lady was saying to me, she's 10 years older than me, she became old, and she said, you know, I've become invisible. She said, I'm walking out, people just don't see me. It's old, just old, useless. Not an object of sense gratification anymore. Yeah, so that's the idea of spiritual life. The first step is to realize that, okay, we're dreaming, but we need to wake up. Process of waking up, following the order of the spiritual master. He'll help us bring us out of this material world and give us the steps, steps to take. So we ask people to chant Hare Krishna because this is a powerful mantra practice. Yeah? For Jeev Jago means wake up soul, wake up spirit. You have been sleeping too long in the lap of the witch called Maya. The witch. You're sleeping in the lap. Well, that's not a good situation to be sleeping in the lap of a witch. But Maya, so that's what Maya means, the illusion of the material world. Everything's okay, it's all very nice, and beautiful nature, and, But actually everybody's suffering, the plants, the animals, the people, everybody's suffering from all sorts of different, the three kinds of suffering, adibhotic, adi-atmic, adi-daivic. There's always one or two or sometimes all three of these forms of suffering. You know? No. Adibhotic is from other living entities. Some dog is barking, or the cat has just dug up my broccoli plants, or somebody's decided that we're their enemy and they're, cursing us and reporting us for this and that to the temple president, or somebody just doesn't want to cooperate with me, or somebody gets in a road rage and tries to kill me, axes, or send us to fight in a war, or there's just unlimited things that other people can do. It's not hard to acknowledge we've experienced. And then the second thing is adidaivic, which means things like bad weather, excessive heat, excessive cold, earthquakes, tsunamis, forest fires. And we can't do anything about these things. That's the prayer that we sing. I know it's nearly time to finish, but the prayer that we sing every morning, you all came to Mangalati, yeah? The prayer that we sing, it says, this material life is like a forest fire. A forest fire. Oh, that's very nice. I can get my laundry dry, it's nice and warm. No, you're in a panic to get out as fast as possible. So how to get out? We're in a forest fire. So that's the instruction of the spiritual master. So that's what that verse says. So you're in a forest fire, and the spiritual master rains down mercy from the cloud. So the cloud will extinguish the forest fire. This is when we sing, Samsara Davana Lita Loka. That's what it means. The samsara is the fire, the forest fire. Lita Loka. Ganaganatvam, that's the cloud. So the spiritual master brings the cloud to extinguish the forest fire. Okay, so the forest fire is an analogy for the suffering of the material world. And the cloud, the material world, the cloud that the spiritual master brings, that rains down his instructions. So the instructions come how to get out of the forest fire. There's a nice analogy, yeah? So that's what we sing. First thing every morning, that's what we sing. If we get here on time. I'm a bit of a culprit for not getting here on time. But as our meditation is under lotus feet of the spiritual master, because we're in a forest fire otherwise. Okay, and the third one is the Adhyatmic, and this is the most painful actually. The Adhyatmic is our own mind, our own body. Recently I had arthritis. I got arthritis the first time I've had it in this life. Oh boy, it's painful, really painful.
What is painful?
Arthros. What's it called in French? Arthros. Okay, I had a dose of arthros. Oh my goodness. And that's just one of so many diseases. There's so many diseases we can get. But our mind is the real suffering. Huh? People who get depressed, they know the suffering in the mind is really intense. Yeah. People even go to the point of committing suicide because they can't tolerate the suffering in the mind. Is really, they cannot stand it anymore. Just, So, all the other sufferings we perceive through mental suffering, isn't it? If the dog is barking and we can't sleep, okay, the dog's barking, but why do we perceive it as suffering? It's because in our mind we don't like it, we can't shut it out, we can't stop it, but the suffering is actually in the mind. We can't turn our mind off unless we get really, really, really drunk, and that causes all sorts of other problems of suffering. So that is not the answer. Stuck with this mind. And they say, wherever you go, you take your forehead with you, which means you take your mind with you. Oh, I go on a holiday. Oh, I go and visit such and I go and sit at the top of a mountain. But your mind is still with you. So this is the Adhyatmic. This is called the Adhyatmic misery. The cold. But it's the mind that suffers from the cold. Oh, the arthros. All the other things. It's actually the mind that suffers. So what do we do? What do we do? What does Prabhupada tell us? What is the instruction? What to do with the mind? Think about Krishna. This is a relief. It works. It really, really works. Anybody who practices spiritual life. If you think about Krishna, if you listen to the mantra, when we were having kirtan, everybody was dancing. We were having kirtan. Bruna was leading the kirtan. He was absorbed. His mind was absorbed in leading. Our minds were absorbed. Krishna, Hare Krishna. We were absorbed because everybody looked happy. Our mind, because we were absorbed in Krishna. We're escaping the mind by being absorbed in Krishna. So this is the message. Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. My mind had to be absorbed in trying to speak properly. I was trying to make it relevant for you.
I forgot about time.
Very good, very good. Any comments?
I have a question. Do women take sannyas?
No, it's not. There was one lady who was given sannyas in ISKCON, but it was bogus. It was not bona fide, what we call bona fide. The actual pronunciation is bona fide, because it's Latin. But Prabhupada called it bona fide, said bona fide, so we say bona fide. No, ladies, but they can take the mood of sannyas. No? They can take the same.
How they call the Matajis when they start to wear white sari?
Widow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can put, I could put on a white sari and shave my head. That's renounced, but I don't like wearing white. It would be so difficult to keep clean. So. If it was a black or a brown or a check, something, I might do it, but I know. Not white. Why white,
And can you explain why women can take sannyas?
Why? Because women have to be protected. Women are vulnerable, Women are vulnerable. Men are generally stronger, and they generally like to, if a man follows his testosterone, he likes to control ladies and exploit ladies and, manipulate ladies. This is the testosterone that dictates the man to be like a man. So the lady needs to be protected from, irresponsible men, which is, we have plenty. Not saying anybody here, but, generally. So a lady needs to be protected. So, even if a lady's not married, she should have somebody that will watch out for her a little bit. So if she's a sannyasini, she would have nobody to protect her, You could say Krishna will protect her, Krishna will protect her. But it doesn't set a good example, because the idea is that ladies should be protected. So if she goes being unprotected, well, everybody will think, oh, well, I don't need a husband, or I don't need, to listen to my father, or, I will just depend on Krishna. But that will be an artificial platform for them, and then they will become exploited. They become, isn't it we see so many girls get pregnant? They become pregnant, they're attracted to some boy who seems very nice, such a nice face and smile, and, he speaks so nicely, and then they get pregnant. And then he is irresponsible. He doesn't take care of her. That she's left. She has to spend her whole life taking care of this baby. And he's irresponsible. This happens quite a lot. Also, you also get the reverse. Where a lady will have a baby and then she'll leave the man, and he'll be heartbroken that she's run away with the baby, and he will not have access to see the child, and he wants to be a responsible father, but he can't. So it's not just there are cases on both sides, but the ideal thing is that you stay together. But ladies do need to be protected, because when you have a baby, when you're pregnant, when you have a baby, anybody who has a newborn baby, they know you feel very vulnerable. You feel vulnerable, yeah. People who've had a baby, they know when you have a new baby, Gandharvika just, you feel vulnerable because the baby's very vulnerable, and you have to take care of the baby, When even a cat, when she has a kitten, she hides the kittens. She hides herself in the kittens, because the vulnerability of a newborn is, it can be eaten or smashed at any moment. So the mother needs to be protected in order to manifest her real feminine qualities. A lady needs to have protection of a man. Otherwise, they have to act like men. What do we see nowadays? Many ladies are not properly protected. They have to act like men to get on in the world, to deal with men. They have to work in the workplace, they have to behave like men. And that means their feminine qualities, their real femininity, is crushed, because they have to act like men. Whereas the real nature of a woman, this is probably getting into a really controversial area, but please forgive me. I didn't mean to do it, it's just coming out. It's my uncontrolled tongue.
Excuse me, do you think it is the only reason? Only one reason that a woman cannot take sannyas? Because
it's just not in the Shastra. It's just not in the Shastra.
You can't even take sannyas in Kali Yuga. Let alone, not even a man.
That's a good point. That's a good point, yeah.
Let's just come to basics. But yeah, if a woman is qualified enough, she can also give guidance, but not in sannyas.
Yeah, she can do. Yeah, that's what I said. She can follow the mood. You can have the mood of sannyas.
And after the husband is gone, become a sannyas, and the woman is left alone, then normally the children look after the mother. So the son or the daughter looks after the mother at an older age. So she's also then protected.
Yeah. Because when you're old, you're vulnerable. A newborn baby is vulnerable. An old person. I couldn't run away now. If somebody came to attack me, I couldn't run away. It's not it's not an option. And I have no strength to fight or whatever. So you feel more vulnerable. You need to be protected. So the ideal is, that the woman is protected by a son. Is that all right, Tisha Krishna Prabhu, yeah?
I'm not satisfied with your answer. I'm sorry. It's not the only reason.
Yeah. The main reason is it's not in Shastra. Yeah, the Shastra Praman is the main, the main evidence for everything we do We say we follow Prabhupada, but we follow Prabhupada because he follows the Shastra. So in the Shastra, it's that women don't take sannyas. And as Prabhu says, even in Kali Yuga, it's not recommended. But Prabhupada gave sannyas for preaching. For preaching. I mean...
You don't see any other reason?
Krishna Krishna, if you want to go more deep, you can go privately, okay?
Yes. Why? Is there room to talk about it?
I can ask my godbrothers. I can get some authoritative. I'm not learned on this point, so I will get some authoritative information. Is that be okay? If we put it on hold, is that all right?
No.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Il y a lui qui s'incarne.